I'm Melissa Shanahan, and this is the Velocity Work Podcast, episode number 74. This podcast is for attorneys who are running their own firms. We explore tactics, tools, and stories related to pushing past simply lawyering well and into building a successful firm. Working in your firm and working on your business are two very different things. This podcast focuses on the latter. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode. Thrilled that you're here. Thrilled to be talking to you at the top of 2021. I hope you all had a wonderful break over the holidays. We certainly did. It's been wonderful. And it was just enough time. I was really ready to plug back in. And here we are. This is the day before I am actually releasing this podcast. So this is my first day back to work. And it is taking me a bit to get my bearings and get back into my groove. I'm giving myself this day to be a little bit messy, a little bit all over the place, and really plan out the rest of my week and month, which I had already done a bit of prior. But, just really getting reacquainted with the things that are on my plate and expectations that I have for team members and that people have of me. And so we can really dig in. So it's been cool. I mean, the reason I am saying this is because I haven't ever given myself the kind of space where I need to reorient when I come back. So, hey, I'm all about it. This is pretty great. Well, today we are going to talk about what it means to have an uncompromising relationship with yourself, the importance of it, and why it matters. This is a great time to talk about this topic because we are at the top of 2021, and many people, my clients and members included, use this time as a fresh start, as a way to set out to achieve some new big things. And if you are anything like me and my clients and the members that I work with, you think in quarters, and then which means you also think in months. To get there, we had to think bigger so we could reverse engineer down to quarterly planning and to monthly planning. But that's what you kind of get down to is these quarters and these months. And so inevitably, everybody that I'm working with has goals. And they've broken things down, and we work on that skill set because it is a skill set to be able to do that. And the second skill that we learn and practice together is honoring that plan that they made. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I have talked about this on other podcasts, but I'm going to talk about it from a different angle that's important to mention, and I want to make sure that we do that today on this podcast. Okay, what does it mean to have an uncompromising relationship with yourself? We can guess, right? We kind of know what that means, but let's just talk for a second about exactly what that means. That means that there's no bargaining, there's no negotiating with yourself on what you said you were going to do. It's as good as done. You don't flake out on your plans that you made for yourself. And if you think about how important this is in terms of, it's really easy when you think of this with someone else, someone that you really care about in your own life. If you said you were going to do something, push comes to shove, you're going to make sure that that thing got done. Whereas with our own selves, we tend to continue to kick the can down the road, push things off, flake out on ourselves. It really is, we don't think of it in this way because we live in our own brains with that voice, that private voice that happens inside your head that justifies and negotiates and is sort of the devil sitting on your shoulder at times. We live in our own heads with that voice. And what happens is that it's like no one's looking. We get to make those calls because we don't really feel like doing the thing we said we were going to do in the moment. So we make a call for some reason to not do the thing in the moment. Sometimes we trick ourselves because we make ourselves believe that something else was much more important. And that's why it took, this new thing took a front seat, and the thing that we said we were going to do takes a back seat and probably never really gets finished. When you have a relationship with yourself where the can just keep getting kicked down the road, or you can continue to negotiate with yourself why you aren't going to do this thing you said you were going to do, you are building a very specific type of relationship with yourself. You are practicing a very specific type of relationship with yourself. And it is possible to change that, to flip that, so that you start building and practicing a new and better relationship with yourself, a stronger relationship with yourself that's filled with honor and integrity, instead of a relationship with yourself where it might get done, it might not get done. Just because you say it doesn't mean it's going to get done. You want to work to get to the place, and you want to develop your skills on purpose and deliberately to get to the place where when you say something, there isn't a shadow of a doubt in your mind, it's as good as done. There are some skills that are required to have an uncompromising relationship with yourself. And there's kind of two sides of this coin. One side of the coin is that you plan very well. We've talked a lot about planning. I've talked about Monday Map. I've talked about how to deconstruct a project on this podcast. There are resources you have to use to go back and listen to learn and help yourself develop that skill. But that first side of the coin is you have to plan very well. Part of planning well is deciding on a goal that honors this big picture. And what I mean by that is there's so many times I'm working with someone and the goals that they set are coming from a place of scarcity. They're coming from a place of lack, a place of fear, and they're setting a goal out of a needy space. When you do that, there's a couple of things that are wrong, meaning that they're going to teach you some lessons in the long run. So you could take my warnings and take my advice ahead of time to really have a look for yourself with the goals that you've set. But when you set a goal that is coming from a place of scarcity or lack or fear, you will know it because you are in a hurry to get there. If you are in a hurry to get to a goal, that is probably not the best goal to be set. There is no reason to hurry to a goal. You can have goals, but if you know in the back of your mind, it's as good as done, and it's your job to plan very well to figure out your path, the best of your ability towards that goal. And then your job, which is the other side of the coin we're going to talk about in a minute, is to honor that plan. But if your plan is starting out with a goal that is kind of crappy, it's not a quality goal. It's a goal out of a needy space that you feel like you have to hurry to get to, and life sucks until you get to that thing. You are kidding yourself. So you have to take stock of exactly what does make the most sense, and how can you get yourself in a space before you set the goal of feeling pretty whole, understanding that everything is okay. We don't need to hurry. Of course we want to grow. Of course we want to reach for that next rung on the ladder, but not in a frantic way. So the first thing I want to say is that when you are deciding what you're working towards, needs to feel like it doesn't rack your nerves and that you aren't in a hurry to get there. It's just as good as done. You just need to plan it and execute your plan. You're going to get there. It may not happen exactly how you thought it would work, but that's okay, right? That's part of going after something we haven't accomplished before. So just be careful about the energy that you're coming from when you're setting your goals. And then the other thing I'll say in terms of when you're deciding what to shoot for, which some of you all feel like a broken record, but it is the truth and you can't get around it, is that you need to constrain down to pick one thing that you're really going for. It doesn't mean other things aren't happening and unfolding in the business or in your life, but in order to achieve something great, you've got to be laser focused. And if you're laser focused on many different things that sort of waters it all down. You need to have one thing that your sight is set on. By choosing that one thing, whatever you choose, it's going to sort of force function all of this other stuff that's going to need to get in line in order to see that goal, to have it come to life. But your eyes are set on that bigger goal. And so constraint is very important. At the middle, I would say, of December, around there, I hosted a strategic planning retreat for mastery group members. It was a 2-day workshop, and they set goals. They reverse engineered to figure out what that meant per quarter, per month. And then we decided, okay, what are the things that need to happen in order to be on track for those goals? And the efforts that came up, the initiatives, the projects that they came up with, those are contenders that they get to choose from for rocks. Like, those are the things they're going to do that will help get them to their goals. Those are the things that if they don't do them, it will hold them back from getting to their goals. So for some people, that means that based on the reverse engineering that they did, they do have a goal and they are laser focused on that, but they know exactly what needs to be done to be on track for that goal, at least like within their control. And so there's projects that many of them are in the sprint this January. That's their one thing that they're reporting on every day, their progress and the lessons learned and what's getting done. An example would be if there's a revenue goal and they've worked backwards and they know what their Q1 goal is for revenue, then, okay, there is a certain process or system that needs to be entirely mapped out and automated. They know that. And that's a big project, but it's something that if they don't do, they're going to hold themselves back from being able to grow. So that is an example of when I say it force functions a lot of things that need to happen for yourself or for your firm, then that's what I mean. So having your sights set and laser focused on a goal, and when you work backwards, there's a bunch of things that are going to happen and grow and develop and evolve inside of your firm, but it's all in an effort to streamline things towards that one goal. So when I say constrain down, I do mean constrain down to one goal, and then you can work backwards to determine what are the things that need to happen here. And you have to chuck away at those. You have to make a plan for those getting implemented, and then your job is to follow that plan, period. So that's what I mean when constraining down and working backwards, just being so laser focused on that one goal. All this other stuff has got to happen and has got to come to fruition, but your eyes never move from that goal. That's what you're working towards. That's why you're doing all of these things, is to enable yourself to hit that goal. Okay. So that is one side of if you want to have an uncompromising relationship with yourself, you got to know exactly what you're working for. And you got to have a plan on what you're going to do to get there. And when I mean plan, you have to have a serious plan, like a detailed plan, well thought out, that you know exactly the efforts and the projects that need to get done. And you've mapped out what the different components are of those things. And you've mapped out how long you think each piece of this is going to take you, so that you can actually schedule time in and know to a degree when you'll have these things done. You have to plan that well, because if you don't, what will end up happening is that you will just try to fly by the seat of your pants towards getting these things accomplished in an effort to hit your goal. And you will fall off the tracks, because you didn't have a good enough plan. You can't just put one foot in front of the other. So with that in mind, it's important that you plan very well. Your job is just to execute. There isn't any room when it's time to execute. There isn't room for planning there. The planning is done ahead of time. So you plan ahead of time, and then you honor your plan. And when you are done honoring the plan that you set, you can lift your head and reevaluate, check in, and pivot or adjust or whatever it is that you need to do. But if you try to do that too early, if you lift your head too early because you didn't have a good plan, like there isn't anything to put your head down with, specifically other than go after your goal, that's not a plan. So if you don't have a plan, it's very easy to throw yourself off track well before you even made much progress at all. And it's deflating. And then of course, something else shiny pops up and it's like, oh, let's just do that because this isn't going terribly well. Right. So that's the pattern we get ourselves into if we don't plan very well. So know what you're going for, and then have a very strong plan in place. Now, when you have that plan in place, then you've set yourself up to more easily have this uncompromising relationship with yourself in terms of honoring what you said you wanted. So have a good plan, have a strong plan. The other side of the coin that I've mentioned a little bit previously is that you have to honor your plan. Now, this is where there's a couple things I want to say here. Number one, it's very important to have something you've constrained down to one thing, this one thing, because it allows you to practice and develop your skills, honoring what you said you were going to do, honoring your plan with just this one thing. If you are trying to do that with many, many, many things, or even just more than one thing, sometimes you'll fall off the wagon, sometimes you won't, but it's kind of like, I'm making some headway in some places. No. If you want to develop this strong, trusting and honorable relationship with yourself that's filled with integrity, then practice small. Start small, because once you develop this muscle, you can start to take on more and more. Funnily enough, no matter how good you are at this, it's still very important to constrain down to one thing and to do all the things that we're saying. But the smaller that you start, the easier it is to develop that trust with yourself that you are going to honor the plan. So I'm saying this so that you can frame whatever it is you're thinking about. I would ask yourself, how can I scale it down to be smaller? The steps that I'm saying I'm going to complete, how can I make those even smaller, even easier, so that it's not so hard to get my brain on board to show up and follow through with my plan? So planning very well and then honoring your plan. And when you constrain down to one thing, it really allows you to focus in and develop the skill set around that one thing with the steps that you said you were going to take to get there. You honor the steps that you said you were going to take to get there. This seems so simple, but this is why resolutions get a bad rap and goal setting at the beginning of the year gets a bad rap, personal life or for your business. And it's because when we fall off the wagon so soon, it just feels pointless and it feels like just a super wishful, magical thinking type of year, but like waste of time because we don't follow through with it. You actually have control over that. And I don't mean that you just have control over reaching your one goal. You have control over the kind of person that you are. And that doesn't happen overnight. It's developed. There are skills that you developed, most of which I've already talked about on this podcast episode, actually. Those skills can be developed. If your focus is on developing those skills, you can put whatever you want in your goal line, whatever you say you want as your goal or the results you want to create, and you know it's as good as done because you have the skill set that's required to show up and make a really strong plan and then to honor your plan. That is what it takes. And so I've talked a lot about these concepts on the podcast before, but today I really want to focus on that this is about having an uncompromising relationship with yourself. And if you have that, that is the thing that will carry you and take you far. I wanted to share with you that just a little bit about myself and how I'm thinking about things. And this is a muscle I've flexed a lot. And I teach this a lot. And I work with people on this as a part of my day job, right? So I'm very well versed in it and I'm very practiced in it. And I'm still not, there's no perfection that's reached. And there's never going to be. It's always progress, not perfection. And building for myself and for anyone else out there who's very good at honoring their plans, making a very good plan and honoring their plan, not flaking out, not negotiating. You don't feel like doing it in the moment. You're going to do something different. You'll do this later. None of that. Like really, you just are very good at, generally speaking, honoring your plan. What's cool about that is that you build, it's almost like you could build layers of it and you can get better and better and optimize and continue to strengthen that relationship with yourself. And that is a journey that doesn't end because there is no, like I said, perfection peak to reach. It is a development. So what this looks like for me as someone who has practiced this quite a bit, just to give you a frame of reference, I have goals for velocity work that my team and I set together during our internal retreat. All of them stem from an annual revenue goal, and we work backwards. And we think about what are the things that we need to do to provide enough value to be able to get ourselves to that level of revenue. It really comes down to providing value. So that is how, so I have specific sort of that is the goal. We know what that means per quarter. And then we also know what efforts need to be made in this next quarter so that we are putting ourselves on track for providing that level of value that will return the goals, the revenue. So we have that inside the business. I also have a personal goal that I am working towards for myself, which is centered around health and measurements, actually, not even losing weight. It's about measurements. And so I mentioned to you previously on the podcast where I talked about Friday Wrap. It's the end of the year that you got to have a lot of grace. That's an area of my life I did not focus on was my health this year. And that's okay. But now I'm choosing to. It's the right time to. And so I do have a business goal that I'm working towards, and I have it broken down. We have a plan. We are executing that plan. That's the phase that we're in now, is just execution. There's no more planning. There's no more changing the goal. There's no more changing the plan. It is done. And now our job is to work. We will lift our heads at the end of the quarter and evaluate lessons learned, all of that, and then keep moving forward. For myself, I'm treating it exactly the same. I have work hours, and that is my time to execute towards the work goals. And then I have hours outside of work that's my time to execute on my plan towards the personal goal that I have set. So it's not that you can, when I say constrain down to one thing, I don't want you to think that the only thing in your life you can choose is a business goal. And then, so that means everything else has to be thrown out the window or vice versa. You can have something in your personal life and you can have something in your work life, but you have to have for any goal that you have set. So let's just say you do have one for personal and professional. You have to have a named goal that's very specific. And then you have to reverse engineer to figure out, what does that mean? What is it going to take to be on track for that? By the quarter, by the month? And what efforts am I going to have to do and put forth in order to be on track for that? That's my job. Because then when you think through that, you're thinking through the execution, and then I calendar what I said. These are the things that need to get done in order to be on track. So then I calendar all of those things. I know exactly what I'm doing day to day when I show up. I know exactly what I'm doing in an effort towards those goals and towards those efforts. And that's what carries you there, period. But the second that I start to look around and I don't honor the plan because I'm like, oh, I'm not on track like I thought I would be. I should just stop. Like, I should reevaluate. I should totally pivot. Wait to do that until the quarter. I'm telling you, wait to do that till the quarter, because the 90 days that you're putting in this effort that you said you were going to put in, you are doing the things you said you were going to do. You need to let that time pass and give yourself those 90 days to honor your plan. Because when you honor your plan, you are strengthening the relationship with yourself. you are stepping into having this uncompromising relationship with yourself, doing what you said you were going to do. And when you do that, that is the thing that will change everything moving forward. No matter where you think you are on this spectrum, if you already think you're pretty good, you do honor the plans you make, you follow through really well, that's great. I would encourage you, where is there room for optimization? And not because you're a robot and you need to optimize just for the sake of optimizing, but why not try to develop that even further, to strengthen that relationship with yourself even further? Why not? Like, what would be the downside? So if you already think you're really good at this, I would take a look at the spots as you're working towards something that tend to pop up that do throw you off. If you don't have many, there's one that's going to stand out in your mind. And what is it going to take to tighten that up so that you're able to honor that relationship with yourself and honor your plan even better, even in those moments that in the past have thrown you off? And if you're not very good at honoring your plan, and you really never have been, except when you're using willpower, which is very short term, and then it's easy to just let your foot off the gas, right? And sort of the pendulum swings the other way where you kind of go towards laziness and no follow through. If you tend to have those periods where you're in that no follow through phase and where you let things go, then I would say, whatever you're working towards, you've got to make sure that you're breaking it down small enough so that the steps that you're honoring every day are easier to actually honor, because it's not about the amount of work that you get done. It is about the practice of making a plan and honoring your plan. And when you can make a plan and honor your plan, that is showcasing this uncompromising relationship that you have with yourself, or that you're building with yourself. So one example I'll give you here is, if you know, let's say you abide by Monday Map, you do Monday Map and you schedule out your week, and you have a certain amount of focus time every day to give towards the thing that you're like your goal, on the business work, if we're talking about the firm. If your focus time is 2 hours every day, and you currently don't really have time, like maybe here and there you spend 30 minutes, and then some days you spend 3 hours, and then one day you don't spend any time. So you're kind of all over the place and there's no consistency. And all of a sudden you're saying 2 full hours a day is what you're going to give. I would back that down. That's a big jump from no consistency at all to going straight to 2 hours every day. So I would back down, as an example, to maybe 20 to 30 minutes every day that you're going to give to work on, and you'll plan this out at the beginning of every week, to work on that focused work that you want to make headway on towards that goal that you're working towards. That's your focus time to do it. Don't just jump to 2 hours a day. Make it small enough so that you can show up and honor that. And then as you strengthen that muscle of like, it's every day I show up, I honor this plan every day, 20 to 30 minutes. Okay. Once you've got that down and it's just a given, then maybe increase it by a bit, and then maybe increase it by a bit. But just jumping from 0 to 2 hours, that's too big. You and I both know, if that's if that sounds like you and you're listening to this, you know that the chances of you honoring that for a bit and then falling off are very high. It's because it's such a big jump. So start smaller with the step that you're going to take to honor your plan. Start smaller with the thing that you're going to have to do every day, so that as you do it, it's not so hard, because there's a lot of ways to make a lot of excuses for, I don't have time for 2 hours. And so you throw the baby out with the bathwater. Instead, if you say 20 to 30 minutes, that really allows you to show up and honor without such a heavy commitment. And the turtle steps that you're taking, because it will feel like turtle steps, 20 minutes every day towards the thing, you will get there faster than someone who gives 2 hours a day up front and then falls off and just goes back to their normal habits. So keep that in mind. The smaller the step that you're taking, but it's consistent over time, that is how you reach your goals. And this going back to this, having this uncompromising relationship with yourself, if you want to build that muscle, it is a skill that you can learn. It is a skill that you can develop. And as you develop it, you will get better and better and better. It's like a muscle that you'll be working, and then you can start to stack on more and more. And you know it's as good as done because you've proven this to yourself from a smaller scale. Okay, everybody. I want everyone, that's my biggest wish at the core of it all. If each of you listening to this had an uncompromising relationship with yourself, you would blow your own mind. But we do tend to flake out on ourselves. We do tend to negotiate why something else takes the front seat. We tend to have these reasons, which are justifications for why we aren't achieving what we want to achieve. All of that, when you have an uncompromising relationship with yourself, all of that you can say goodbye to. And what you can say hello to is you consistently showing up for the things that you're meant for the having the experience of being you, being the version of you that is consistently achieving what you set out to do. There is nothing like that. Nothing like that. And so whether you're working for something that feels kind of small, or whether you're working towards a goal that feels impossible, this is how it's done. You make a strong plan, you honor your plan. And then every 90 days, you lift your head and you look around and you sort of get the lay of the land, and then you make your plan for the next 90 days. You do not change in the middle of the quarter. You stay with what you said you were going to do, because the worst thing that could happen is that you continue to plug along, even if you're like, oh man, I don't know. I do not know if this is exactly going to turn out the way I thought. I don't know if this is working. Like you start to panic, but you continue anyway with your plan. You will reach a level that you would have otherwise cut yourself off of if you would have given in to this urge to not honor your plan. And that is why we don't make the headway we could make. And so I want you to really grasp that as you work towards your goals, it is not about the goal. The goals are fun to achieve. It is about who you have to become in order to achieve that level of a goal, right? That is what this is about. And so every time you've heard me say on this podcast, it's about who you have to become. That is what I'm talking about. It's who you have to become, the kinds of decisions you make, the way that you think, the way that you honor your plans. This uncompromising relationship that you have with yourself gets stronger and stronger and stronger. That is what I mean. Because when you build that, when you focus on that, and when you're committed to that, the sky is the limit. Okay, everyone, I hope you have a beautiful first week back in the swing of things. I will see you here next Tuesday. Hey there. If you enjoyed this podcast, I highly recommend you come and check out Mastery Group. It is where owner attorneys come together to study this material, apply it, and thus create really big results for their firm and for their life. So come on over, velocitywork.com/join to get more information and get started. Show notes from this episode can be found at velocitywork.com/podcast.